So, hi everyone, and welcome to another Sunday Zoom meeting and another podcast episode. If you're watching on YouTube or listening as a podcast, you can find out more about the podcast on the website. It's www.acimwithkeith.com. You can find out about the online community, how to get involved in the meetings with us, paid private mentoring with myself if it interests you, and all the podcast episodes are there. Okay, so before we hit record on today's meeting, we watched a famous Saturday Night Live skit with Bob Newhart called "Stop It." I'm not going to include it in this episode or the YouTube recording because it's bound to get me into trouble with YouTube and get me a copyright strike. So I'll put a link to it in the description, and if you want, you can have a look at it before you continue on with this episode. But it's not essential because we're going to go to a quote from A Course in Miracles. Now, so this is from chapter 28. It is from, it's not coming up on my screen right now. The Undoing of Fears. That's section 1, paragraph 11. Okay. The miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. It reaches gently from that quiet time. And from the mind it healed in quiet then to other minds to share its quietness. And they will join in doing nothing to prevent its radiant extension back into the mind which caused all minds to be. So the miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. So we always talk about the big trap of the flypaper when forgiveness has to be done. And it doesn't matter how many times I talk about it, you're going to rush straight into the flypaper every single time. But with practice, you'll learn how to notice quicker what you're doing. Because we have some upset come up, we're furious over something that's after happening, and we go, oh my God, I should be doing forgiveness. And then we have this battle royale in our head. It's like, oh my God, I think I'm an ego, and oh my God, I'm losing my mind, and this shouldn't be happening to me. I'm a Course in Miracle student. I should be beyond this. This doesn't happen to other people, but it happens to me, and I'm such a failure. Let me do my forgiveness formula. What's my forgiveness formula? What's my forgiveness formula? Why is it not working? Why is it not working? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? So the miracle can't come in there. There's nowhere for the miracle to come in there. Because the miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. And so all of that, oh my God, this shouldn't be happening to me. Oh, I should do a forgiveness formula. How do I get rid of this? What's my forgiveness formula? Why is it not working? What am I forgetting? What am I doing wrong? You're not thinking any of that. Those aren't real thoughts. They are echoes, reflections of the five senses, bouncing and ricocheting around your mind. You're not thinking them. No one's thinking them. None of those are your real thoughts. Not even, oh my God, what's my forgiveness formula? How do I do it? That's not your real thoughts either. None of that's your real thoughts. Because you don't have private thoughts. You don't have personal thoughts. Because you're not a person. Because you're not a separate self. So separate self thoughts can't be yours or you. They're not real thoughts. This is the importance of understanding the workbook of A Course in Miracles. The thoughts I think are not my real thoughts, and they don't mean anything. Lesson 52. I have no private thoughts, but it's only private thoughts of which I am aware. What can they mean? They do not exist and they mean nothing. The silence is where it's at because that's what you are. When you think you're thinking, it manufactures the illusion that you are a lacking, needing, wanting, self-loathing, inadequate, separate self. If you go looking for thoughts, you'll find plenty of thoughts in there. You go looking for the one that's thinking those thoughts, and all you'll find is silent, stillness, spacious awareness. That's what you are, and that's what everyone is. That's the miracle. It's the miracle. You're not a thinker of private thoughts. Oh, there's thoughts happening. I did air inverted commas there and thoughts because they're not really thoughts. They're just echoes of the five senses. But there's nobody there thinking them. They don't belong to anyone and they don't mean anything. They're not real thoughts. And yet that's where A Course in Miracles finds us, thinking we are a thinker of pretend thoughts that nobody's thinking and that don't mean anything, that have no actual existence whatsoever. Think about it. You're walking down the street, someone bangs into you, knocks you over, and you get up and you brush yourself off and you keep walking. What's happening? It's reflecting, it's bouncing around your mind, just a reflection of what happened. And it reflects and bounces off something that happened when you were 10 years old and you never got over it. And people have no manners and they've no respect. And it bounces again off the memory of what happened a few moments ago and it bounces off something else. That's not thinking. That's not thought. What we call thoughts, A Course in Miracles tells us, no, that's nonsense. That's not thoughts. That's not thoughts at all. They're not your real thoughts. You're not thinking them. But when you think you are, you will misperceive yourself as a separate self. And looking out from the filter of an imagined separate self identity, you will misperceive the entire world. You'll see it full of thinkers of private thoughts, but there's no one there. So you look out through an imaginary ego and you see a world full of egos, or you undo your misidentification with thought to know what you are as silence. And the filter is removed, and you look out and see that the silence you are is the truth of everything and everyone. All is well. So we've read this a few times, but we'll read it again. It's My Father's House by Helen Schucman. Hallowed my name. I am a son of God who walks in stillness. I hold out my hand, and from my fingertips the quiet goes around the world to still all living things and cover them in holiness. Their rest is joined in mine, for I am one with them. There is no pain my stillness cannot heal, because it comes from God. There is no grief that does not turn to laughter when I come. I do not come alone. There walks with me the light that heaven looks on as itself. I am a son of God. My name is His. My Father's house is where my stillness is. You are stillness. The stillness that shines as the truth of everything and everyone. Already. Now. But the mind is reflecting. like a big house of mirrors. And there is the thought, I am the thinker of those thoughts. I am the holder of those opinions. That one doesn't exist. I am not saying you don't exist. I am saying you are not an imagined thinker of what we call thoughts. There is no thinker of that. They are just reflections. There's nobody thinking any of them. Now, when you identify with those reflections, that hall of mirrors in your mind, that big cloud of ego thought system, reflecting and reflecting and reflecting and reflecting ad nauseum, it just continues. It just keeps reflecting, reflecting, reflecting. And all that is a big smoke screen meant to distract you from the silence where God is and where you're one with everyone. See, in the silence, the separation never happened. Because it only ever arose as a thought, a tiny mad idea. Only thought seems to prop up the illusion of separateness. If there's no thought, there is no separateness. It never happened. In the silence, the separateness never happened. It's not there now. It never was. And so A Course in Miracles says to us, I am lesson 5. I'm never upset for the reason I think. You're not upset about what's happening in the world. You're upset because you are identified with that big mess of reflecting mirrors in your mind, and you think it's you. You think you're in there thinking all of that. You are the thinker of this mess. And that one doesn't exist. There's no one there. Just like you can go looking for thoughts and find them, but you'll never find the one who's thinking them. There's only what's looking and finding no one. And that's silence, quiet, still, spacious awareness, what you are. You can go looking for suffering. You'll find suffering, but go looking for the one who is suffering. There's no one there. Only what's looking and not finding anyone. You are that. The quiet, the stillness, spacious awareness. Not a body free and still as God created you. The same thing everyone is. You're not the house of mirrors in your mind. Neither is anyone else. There is only the quiet. In Helen's poem, she talks about, and from my fingertips, the quiet goes out around the world to still all living things. In my perception, doesn't mean the world has changed. I see the stillness that's the truth of everything. I see the no thingness appearing as things that mean nothing, and still it is the no thingness that I am. So from my fingertips, the quiet goes out around the world to cover all living things. Cover them in holiness. It's the silence that's holy. It's the stillness that's holy. That's where your salvation is. And it's shining in your mind right now. Oh, there's a big hall of mirrors that you've mistaken for yourself. So what? That's not you. That's not you. You don't have any private thoughts. You don't have personal thoughts. Those are just reflections. It's not you. You're the silence, the stillness that sees itself in everything and everyone in the world and knows only holiness. That's Christ's vision. My problem is I think I am identified with thought, which are not real thoughts, not mine, and I'm not really thinking them. Because of that, I think I'm something I'm not, a separate self. I'm not the holiness. I'm not the quiet. I'm not the light of the world that's shining in everything. No, 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 no. I am this thinker of the big house of mirrors. And I hate myself. I loathe myself. I'm in constant pain. And the only way I know how to make the pain stop is to hate other people instead of myself. That one doesn't exist. That's not you. You've never been anything other than the quiet. It's mistaken identity. You don't need to be saved from anything real. The atonement is done. You already are the quiet. The noise isn't you. We often say A Course in Miracles is a rescue mission. It's a pretend rescue mission because you're already saved from yourself. You already are silence. You just think that that ricocheting, echoing, reflecting mess in your head is you. That's not you. None of it. All the stories and the memories and the thoughts and the opinions and the preferences and the aversion, that's not you. It's just echoes. It's just reflections that you've mixed yourself up with. But it's not you. You're not really mixed up with it. You walk in stillness as the Son of God. And already the stillness that you are looks out and sees itself as the truth of everything and everyone. Already. There's a right mind and there's a wrong mind. The right mind's already doing that right now. That's why the Course says miracles are happening all the time. You just have to become aware of them. But because we have a split mind, and remember, there is quadrillions of wrong minds. I am a separate self. I am this thinker of thoughts. I have my opinions. Behold my powerful contribution to the truth. Okay, that's your wrong mind. You just think you're thinking, but you're not. And they're not even thoughts. And they're not yours, and you're not thinking them, and they don't mean anything, and they're an illusion. And they've got nothing to do with what you are. Nothing. You who are the quiet, as the Son of God that walks in stillness. So that's the only problem you have. You've mixed yourself up with an ego thought system. Because your mind is split, you can either identify as a non-existent separate self made out of reflections, and the reflection that there is a reflector of these reflections. You've mixed yourself up with what we call thoughts, but aren't really thoughts. And with the thought that there is a thinker of these thoughts that are not really thoughts. There's no one there. Go looking for it. We often draw attention to lesson 8. The one holy true thought we can hold about the past is it's not here now. When you think you're thinking about the past and the future, your mind is blank because it's not really thinking about anything. Because they're reflections. You're not thinking them. When you think you're thinking them, your mind is blank because it's not really thinking them. That's not you, because you're not a separate self. You're the light of the world that shines in everyone. You are the holiness that is the quiet in everything and everyone. What's never changing in your mind? The Course says your brother has a changelessness in him beyond appearance and deception both. What's never changing in your brother? The quiet, the stillness, pure present moment awareness, stillness. That's what's never changing. Everything else is just reflections. And that truth in your brother, that changelessness, that's what you are. Only the stuff that's changing, thoughts and its feelings, reflections, not real thoughts, just reflections of the five senses, not thoughts at all. Just that mess makes you think you are something you're not, and that your brother is something other than what you are. And the miracle is very simple. You look at the mess and you do nothing. The Course tells us forgiveness is still, and it quietly does nothing. It looks and waits and judges not. What else would the quiet do? What else would stillness do? Would it start shouting, oh my God, this is happening to me again. I'm such a bad course student. What's my forgiveness formula? How do I fix this? Oh my God, Holy Spirit, take it off me, take it off me, take it off me. Is that what the quiet does? Or does it remember itself in the quiet? Let's take the quote that we started off with in the beginning again, because it's beautiful. The miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. Into the mind that thinks it is a big hall of mirrors reflecting all over the place, in terrible pain, hating itself and trying to hate others to make itself feel better. Into that mind, the miracle comes quietly. The mind that stops an instant and is still. Why does the miracle come quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still? Because quiet is recognized as the truth of what you are in the Holy Spirit. And from that quiet, you look out and see this quiet is the truth of everyone already. Already. It reaches gently from that quiet time. And from the mind it healed in quiet then. All it did was heal it of the delusion that it was that big cloud of reflecting mess. The quiet you are calls you home to yourself as the quiet from that mess you mistook for yourself. And then it gently reaches from that quiet time and from the mind that healed in quiet then to other minds to share its quietness. Nisargadatta Maharaj says it so beautifully. I keep quoting it. I'll quote it forever. When I look within and see that I'm nothing, that is wisdom. And when I look without and see that I am everything, that the nothing is what everything really is, that the silence, the quiet is what everything really is, that's love. That's the end of separateness. That's the end of the tiny mad idea. There's no tiny mad idea in the silence, in the quiet, in the mind that stops an instant and is still, remembers what it is, remembers what all the world is, God's one holy innocent son, and ultimately remembers God. So when you find yourself in the flypaper loop, oh my God, it's happening to me again. I have all this adrenaline. I can't calm myself down. I can't get rid of this upset. Oh my God, it keeps echoing around in my head. I can't make it stop. Why is my forgiveness formula not working? Why do I not feel better? Why have I been doing the course 30 years? And why is it still not working? And I must be doing it wrong. And I need a new forgiveness formula. And how do I do it? And just stop. Just stop everything. Wholeness and completeness is already here. Just stop. Oh my God, why is it not working? I need to do it better. What's my forgiveness formula? Maybe I need a new one. Just stop and remember what you are. I don't know, maybe it's not strong enough. Just stop. I don't know, I think this should be stronger. I don't think this is like fantastic enough yet. I'm not sure if this is a sign. Maybe I need a signier sign. Just stop. Wholeness is already here. Everything your mind is doing is a defense against it, including, oh, what am I doing wrong? Oh, I need to have this fixed. Tell me how to do this better. Why is it not working for me? I can't get out of it. Just stop. Just stop. Are you, even now in this moment, are you absolutely certain the wholeness and the completeness you are isn't already here? When you stop, it's always here. Just that mess in your head distracts you from it. The atonement is over. Separateness is done as an idea and it was never real. Just that mess reflecting itself in your head is distracting you from salvation that's already here. It's done. Your salvation is right here now, and you're busy going, oh, I'm not as good as other students. I'm never going to get this. I'm never going to understand this. I'm never going to wrap my head around this. Just stop. What you are is already here. It's not that mess. Just stop that. Stop trying to do anything. For the love of God, what would you do to have a salvation that's already done? Stop. Stop. right here and now, are you absolutely certain salvation isn't already here? Are you absolutely certain the quiet isn't already reaching out from your mind to cover all living things in holiness? So their rest as the quiet is joined with yours. Are you absolutely certain that's not already here right now? It is. The biggest thing you're going to have to learn is that thoughts, apparent thoughts, pseudo thoughts, pretend thoughts, are just pretend thoughts and they mean nothing. Because each time you think you're thinking, you will be in pain and you will be trying to find a salvation for yourself that's already here. Just stop. And as the thoughts come in, don't go, oh, I can't stop thinking. You're not thinking. They're just thoughts, pretend thoughts, not real thoughts. No one's thinking them. They're just reflections. Oh, I think this should feel more peaceful. I think I should be hearing a louder voice booming in my head. This should be like a 4K movie of fabulousness. Are those thoughts you? Or are you the one that's hearing them? Is salvation not already here in that quiet? Are you not already the quiet that covers the whole world in holiness? Are you not already the light that shines as the truth of everything and everyone? You are. But you're going to have to recognize pretend thoughts for pretend thoughts. That's not you. None of those thoughts about opinions and, oh my God, what happened to me? And I can't believe it. And people shouldn't behave like that. And that's not you. Those are they're not real thoughts. That's just reflections in the mind that you're mixing yourself up with. That's not you. All you ever have to do is say, are those thoughts me? Or was I here before that thought? And will I still be here when that thought dissolves? See, thoughts are coming and going. Feelings are coming and going. Sensations are coming and going. Stories are coming and going. You're not coming and going. You are the silence, the container within which everything is arising and subsiding, coming and going. And you're never rising and subsiding, never coming and going. What is it in you that's never changing? Salvation. It's the beauty of lesson 70. I think it's 70. Now we will try to find again the light in you, which is your salvation. It is not in the clouds, thoughts and concepts, reflections. It is not in the clouds, and that's where you've been looking for it. It is beyond the clouds, beyond those reflections, beyond that big hall of mirrors. The truth of what you are as the quiet, the light of the world is now. Now, already. You as the light Your identity, which is already true, is just veiled from you by identifying with the House of Mirrors. That's not you. But as the Course says in lesson 70, you have to go through the clouds to get to the light. Every thought that comes in, oh, I'm not really getting this. Is that thought me? Or am I the one that hears it? I'm the one that hears it. Is there any problem here? No. And that cloud falls away. And the next one comes in. I don't think this is strong enough. I think I should be getting a better tingle. I think the light should be a bit brighter. Oh, I thought I was thinking that. I'm not. Is that thought me? Or am I the one that hears it? I'm the one that hears it. Is there any problem here? No. Past that cloud. The next one comes in going, I don't know. I think there might be separate selves. And you have to catch it and go, I'm not thinking that. That's happening all by itself. These are just reflections that aren't me. Is that thought me or am I the one that hears it? I'm the one that hears it. Is there anything divisible here? Is there any separateness here? No. There's no such thing as a separate self. It's a delusion, a painful one, a persistent one, and it's the cause of all your suffering. Course in Miracles is very clear. There's only one problem. The problem isn't, oh, what happened to my separate self when I was a kid? It was terrible. And what's going to happen in 5 years' time to my separate self? And look what the people are doing to my separate self now. The only problem there is you think you're a separate self. No separate self? No problem. No problem. What problem doesn't vanish when there's no self there to have a problem? There's none there now. Go looking for the one who suffers and find the quiet that you are. Go looking for the one that thinks they're thinking and find the quiet that you are. Are there any problems there? No. And that quiet is the truth of everyone. Now, already. The message of the atonement is that separateness never happened. It's not true now. It's an illusion that we've been buying into. It's not true. This is from lesson 164, paragraph 4. There is a silence into which the world cannot intrude. There is an ancient peace you carry in your heart and have not lost. There is a sense of holiness in you the thought of sin, which is separateness, has never touched. All this today you will remember. So stop it. Whatever you're doing to try and be holy, stop it. Whatever you're doing to try to be enlightened, stop it. Whatever you're doing to get rid of the voice in your head, stop it. Whatever you're doing to try and make the bad feelings go away, stop it. and remember what you are and what the world is. Stop it. People say to me all the time, "Oh, I feel like I'm on a certain rung of the ladder. I think other people are on a higher rung than I am." You're not on a ladder. There's no ladder. One of the most beautiful and important passages in the Course says, "For we but see the journey from the point at which it ended, looking back, imagining we make it once again." Reviewing mentally what's gone by. You're not in the movie. You are already the oneness, the quiet, the capital S self, where this all ends with a happy ever after. You're already there as the quiet. And all the noise in your head isn't you. That's it. So stop it. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do except go through the clouds. While I've always believed this, is that belief me? Or am I the one who hears this? While I've always thought this, is that thought me? Or am I the silence that hears it? All you have to do is learn how to disidentify with the self you've made out of thoughts that are not really thoughts and they're not your thoughts and you're not thinking them and they don't mean anything. You're learning to disidentify with that. That's salvation. That's it. I cannot labor this too much because for the longest time, I labored under the assumption that this self Keith was going to awaken, was going to be holy and fabulous. Okay. But there's no one here. At least there's nothing here that isn't everywhere. There's no self apart from what is everywhere. There is only the silence and the stillness and the light that's here, which is everywhere. That's all that's here. There is no self here to become enlightened. Enlightenment is seeing, there's no one there. And you are what sees that and knows itself as everything. Now, in the beginning, it certainly was the case for me for quite a while. And it's a powerful realization when you realize I am awareness. And this awareness is always in the background and it's never changing. Oh, there's a big mess there and I keep mixing myself up in it. But if I look on it and I don't judge it, if I forgive it, if I don't have thoughts about those thoughts, if I don't have feelings about those feelings, if I don't project a meaning onto the cloud, I'm restored to the awareness that I am. And all is well here. That's generally the way I teach A Course in Miracles, because that's where that, that's the most important thing for you to realize, first of all. Okay. And that's what you got to work with, because that's how you do forgiveness. Um, but but as you practice this unfolds deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Because I've never held myself up as an enlightened guru and someone who is a saint, fabulous all the time. That's nonsense. It's a concept. Okay. And there's nobody here to be that. All right. There's still quite a lot of ego fixation here that I work with on a daily basis. Um, but now, when I extricate myself from an ego fixation, the self that's here, thinking it's thinking, seeing itself as separate to everything and everyone else, that disappears. And there is only what is everything. So there's no self here that's different or apart from what is everything and everything else. And it's obvious that there's no self here. It's as clear as day that there was never an entity here thinking thoughts or having opinions or that is different than what's everything. Literally, that imaginary self, lesson 93 says, the self you made is not the Son of God, and therefore this self does not exist at all. Now, to some of you, you're going to go, oh my God, that sounds woo woo and it sounds scary. I was quite bowled over when I started private coaching by the amount of people who have had this experience for a couple of weeks or a day or a couple of months before ego conditioning comes back in again. So you might be among those that are listening to this going, that sounds woo woo, or he's off his rocker, or I don't like the sound of that. But others of you are going to be listening to this going, yeah, I had that for 3 weeks. I had that for 5 hours. There was no thinking going on. And everything was, I was what was everything. Um, so I think one of the most important things that you need to get into your head is that that's possible. That's not science fiction. This isn't top of the ladder stuff. There's no ladder. this there's no ladder. Yeah, salvation's here. Just stop it. Whatever you're doing, stop it and start going through the clouds. All the thoughts you think you're thinking, that's just a thought. So what am I that was here before that thought and will be here after that thought? What am I that was here before any thinking ever happened and that will be here when all thinking is done? You're already that. You're already saved. You're just mistaking a big cloud in your mind for what you are. It's not you. There's no such thing as separate self thoughts because there's no such thing as separate selves. One quiet is appearing as everything without ever ceasing to be the quiet. One light of the world is appearing as everything without ever ceasing to be the light. In the clarification of terms, Jesus says, the ego is going to have many questions this course will not answer. For example, how did the separation happen? And he says, there's no answer to that. There's no answer to that because there's no such thing as separation. So he says, there's only an experience. Seek only that and do not let theology delay you. There is that experience that there's no separation. All that happens is the apparent self that here dissolves as the illusion it is, and there's only what's appearing as everything. There is no separation. It's a house of cards made out of thinking, not even thinking. The delusion that you are thinking you are thinking. That's all the delusion is made out of. Once you realize there's no thinker of thoughts, then it's absolutely abundantly obvious that there's no separation. And that doesn't mean thought has to end, because now thought can be in service to this, the Holy Spirit, the light of the world that illuminates everything. That's the truth of everything. The quiet, that's the truth of everything. Now thought is in service to that. So thought isn't the devil, but thinking you're thinking, that's the problem. A thinker of private thoughts implies there's a separate self there. There's not. There's not. You already are the quiet and the light at the end of the journey, watching a movie of how it happened. That's all that's going on. Salvation's here. The Course tells us, it is in this moment that complete salvation is offered to you. Complete salvation. Just stop it. Whatever you're trying to do to save yourself, stop it. Let your mind fall still for a moment and let the quiet tell you of yourself. But you thinking you are a separate self with separate self thoughts in a world of separate people, that's only the second shield of oblivion. Thinking you are a self in a world that you've made up. Okay, that's only the second shield of oblivion. Even when you realize there is no thinker of thoughts, there's no separate self here, and that's some realization when you have it. Most people have it gradually. Some people have it suddenly. For me, it was flashes in the beginning. What I was looking at was me, and it was love, and there was no separation. But it was like individual things. It took quite a while for that to expand into a situation where everything is one. But some people have that instantly. The thing is that that's only the second shield of oblivion, obliviated, as they would say in Harry Potter. Um, you still have a first shield of oblivion, which is sin, guilt, and fear, which the world was made up and separate selves were made up to be a defense against the sin, guilt, and fear that's here. So after you realize that there's no such thing as a self that's here, and at some point that's abundantly obvious through forgiveness. Okay. And you need to get that into your head that there's no salvation for the separate self. The separate self delusion, it's all that's blocking you from knowing that you already are the light of the world. You already are the quiet. You already are the silence. All is well. But that's what you really need to understand. There is no separate self. The minute you, the quiet, dissociate the quiet, jump into the movie, think you're a thinker of private thoughts, your suffering begins. Suffering begins. And now begins the sole activity of the imaginary separate self, the imaginary thinker of thoughts, seeking and resisting, grievances and grasping, special love and special hate. The minute you identify with all those reflections masquerading as thoughts, masquerading as you, the minute you dive into that and forget your holiness, now begins your activity of trying to fix the problem of yourself and your misery and unhappiness, inadequacy and self-loathing. I need someone to love me. How the hell could love need someone to love it? Only if love didn't know what it was could it have such a requirement. I need to earn more money so I can feel better about myself. Think I deserve a better relationship. I need a better promotion. That's what's going to make me happy. Having another child, that's going to make me happy. Nothing ever makes you happy. Nothing makes you happy. Only the return to the silence. Only the return to the quiet. And this is purely a question of identity. We're not saying thought has to stop, but it can almost completely diminish. But it doesn't have to. But there's no identity in it anymore. There's just what is, and it requires nothing. And all it does is it extends the abundance that's already here out into everything it sees. That's salvation. It's not in the world. It's not in getting. It's not in fighting. It's not in resisting. No, just stop it. Just stop it. And it's already here. The problem is we misperceive ourselves. And now we're like, oh, what do I do? How do I become more spiritual? How do I? No, 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 just stop it. That attempt to fix yourself, that's ego. Because the quiet doesn't need to fix itself. Forgiveness isn't a doing, it's a non doing. The minute you're identified with that mess in your head, you are involved in the soul activity of the ego, which is seeking and resisting, grasping and grieving grievances, special love and special hate. Okay. So now forgiveness is a cessation of fighting, a cessation of seeking. It's a doing nothing. It's a being still in the midst of whatever noise and reflections are going on in your mind. You fall still. You stop it. The noise won't. That won't stop. But that's not you. So what does it matter? So what? You stop. You stop. And the minute you do, you realize, my God, I'm the quiet in the midst of this madhouse. Problem solved. All you did was misperceive yourself. And then the madness will dissipate and fall away because you stopped. And there's nothing to fuel the madness anymore. There's no separate self there on whose behalf it can stick around. There's no one there to be insane. There's no one there to be sick. There's no one there to suffer. Just the quiet you are that sees this. And that sees itself as the truth of everyone and everything. Forgiveness is doing nothing. Forgiveness is still. Of course, it's still. And it quietly does nothing. It looks and waits and judges not. The miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. It's doing nothing. And in that nothing, there is the remembrance of what you are. It's not a separate self. It's here now in this moment. No matter what the reflections are doing in your mind, the silence you are is here. Now, just stop. Stop an instant. So I'm going to read two quotes, and we're going to vary it slightly and take these from two different sources because I think they're absolutely beautiful, wonderful pointers to the exact same thing A Course in Miracles is saying. Let's have this quote one more time because it's beautiful before we move off the course. There is a silence into which the world cannot intrude. It's in your mind now. There is an ancient peace you carry in your heart and have not lost. How could you? It's what you are. There is a sense of holiness in you the thought of sin has never touched. Sin is separateness. All this today you will remember. Just stop it. I shared this in the group during the week. This is from Amoda Ma. Through having the courage to face what deeply hurts and sitting inside it without judgment, there is a dissolution of the grievance. It's beautifully put. Through having the courage to face what deeply hurts and sitting inside it without judgment, there is a dissolution of the grievance. All you have to do is bring the hurt to the silence. See, the right mind that you are, the quiet that you are, the stillness that you are, never fixates. Never fixates, never holds concepts. The right mind doesn't judge. It can't fixate. If there's upset coming up, you sit inside that and don't project a meaning onto it. Don't fixate. The mistake everyone makes over and over and over again is, oh, there's this terrible stuff going on inside of me. I can't believe it. I need forgiveness. I need to take it off me. That's not forgiveness. That's judgment. And you're not thinking those thoughts. That's not you. Forgiveness does nothing. It projects no meaning onto the hurt. It sits in the middle of the hurt and doesn't make up stories about it. It doesn't have thoughts about thoughts. It doesn't have feelings about feelings. It doesn't suffer over suffering. It does nothing. It's still. And that will dissolve all hurt. But you have to do nothing about the hurt. You just have to sit in it and do nothing. Project no meaning onto it. Don't go, oh, this is bad. I need this taken off me. That's judgment. That's fixation. That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is doing nothing. It's not projecting a meaning. Oh, this is terrible. This is bad. I need to take it off me. That's judgment. It's nothing. Don't project a meaning onto it. You just stop. Sit in whatever is coming up and let there be no resistance to it. Let there be no fighting it. Let there be no imaginary separate self here going, oh my God, this is terrible. I need to have it taken off me. What am I going to do? No, don't have that. That doesn't exist. There is just the emotion. There is just suffering, but there's nobody there suffering. Just sit in the suffering without projecting a meaning onto it, without judging it, without saying anything about it, including, oh, this is terrible. Can't be dealing with this. No, stop it. Stop it. Stop. Let the miracle of the quiet come. One more quote. This is from our friend Eckhart Tolle, who is an amazing wordsmith when it comes to pointing at this. This is Eckhart Tolle's from The Power of Now. Don't look for peace. Beautiful. Course in Miracles says our task is not to seek for love, but to find and remove all the obstacles we've placed between ourselves and love. So Eckhart's saying the same thing. Don't look for peace. Don't look for any other state than the one you are in now. Otherwise, you will set up inner conflict and unconscious resistance. Do nothing with the state that you're in. Nothing. Stop it. Let the state be what it is. If it's self-hatred, so be it. If you're trying to fix it, stop it. Do nothing. So to continue, forgive yourself for not being at peace. Do nothing. Just forgive it. Let the non-peace be there. Forgive it. Don't put a meaning onto it. Don't say, oh, it shouldn't be happening. That's all nonsense. Stop it. Forgive yourself for not being at peace. The moment you completely accept the non-peace becomes transmuted into peace. Anything you fully accept will get you there, will take you into peace. This is the miracle of surrender. Make no mistake, that's what forgiveness is. Surrender. Stop trying to fix the reflections in your mind, the thoughts you thought you were thinking that are not your real thoughts and they're not even real thoughts. Stop trying to do anything with them. Stop trying to change them. Stop trying to fix them. Stop trying to fix emotions. Stop trying to fix hatred. Stop trying to fix shame. Stop trying to fix anger. Stop it. Do nothing. That's surrender. Do nothing. All the doing is veiling from you that there's nothing to be done. All the doing is keeping you deluded that there's someone there that needs to do something to save itself. You're already saved. Stop it. Stop it. Whatever you're trying to do, stop it. Welcome whatever state is here in this moment. Sit in the middle of it without projecting a meaning onto it. Completely forgive it. And what you are will tell you of itself, and it will undo whatever ego fixations, upset, and pain is coming up to be healed. But you do nothing. Stop it. Whatever you're trying to do, stop it. And remember what you are as the light of the world. Now. Okay, let's throw it open for some questions. Are we good with the order on the top of the screen there, Linda, my co-host?
Well, no, Marina has had her hand up, but you can't see it on the screen, just in the participants list.
Okay,
And
I can see it. Marina, do you
okay,
want to take yourself off mute and go ahead?
Sure. Thank you, Keith. Hi. And
Hi.
I just wanted to share that in the very beginning, when I was listening to your teachings and things, I used to feel very frustrated, sometimes. And because you would talk about, oh, you're just in the flypaper, and or even today, I think that if someone was really new to this course and we were just telling them to stop it, it might be a bit frustrating. And that is only because they're in the ego thought system. I think I just wanted to share what helped me the most, if that's okay. And that is that understanding that the split mind of the dreamer, that we're the dream character And the dreamer has a split mind. That is the Son of God, right? And and it has a split mind while it's dreaming. It has the ego thought system and it has the echo of the Holy Spirit. And when we're listening to the ego thought system, which is our private thoughts, like you were discussing, then we are not at peace and we're frustrated and we're angry or whatever. But if we understand that the dreamer is, we're not even this ego self is not the dreamer. The dreamer is outside the dream, watching the dream. And so that's what helped me the most is understanding too that perception is always going to be there while I'm in the dream. That I'm always going to be perceiving and judging, and it can't be helped because perception is not knowledge. And the only way that I'll ever experience knowledge is maybe by grace, revelation at some instant, but not until I'm fully awake. And I don't think that that's going to happen while I'm in this dream. And that's okay with me. That's okay because now I have so much more. I can't explain it. I can't really put it into words, but just so much more like it's okay. It's whatever is happening, it's perfectly okay. And it's not me. Does that make sense? Or I don't know if that helps anybody else or not, but
Well, it's a
to
different way of saying the same thing, Marina. So I'm sure it might benefit some people. But I mean, because all we're saying is that the cloud in your head, the ego thought system, that's not you. But I
exactly.
would just I would just pick you up on some points there, just for your own
Okay.
sake. Um, you can't judge. That's not possible. You
The
you
me
you
that
it,
is the real me, the real self, the one that
yeah, but
is
well, the one that you already are can't judge.
right, right,
Okay, so it's not possible for you to judge. There's that beautiful passage in the Course where it says, you've been asked not to judge. I'm not taking a right off you. I'm telling you, you can't judge. You can only believe the ego's judgments, all of which are false. But you
right.
can't judge. When you think you're judging, your mind is blank because it's not really judging.
Yes.
So the beauty of this is to realize that, and this is the importance of what we're saying today, there is a big cloud of reflections in your mind, judgments of judgments of judgments of judgments bouncing off the five senses and the memories, and all that's in your mind. All you have to do is realize that's not you.
You're exactly right. I have no argument at all
Good.
there.
So,
Totally,
so the
totally get it.
fact is then that you see, by you saying those are my perceptions, all you have to realize is they're not your perceptions. They are the ego's perceptions, not yours.
Correct. But when it's almost impossible to have a conversation about what we're talking about without sounding like you're coming from your ego in some sense. I can't. I have experiences, and I guess what I'm saying is that I think that somebody that's very new to the course might experience frustration because it takes time. You've got to, and you know for yourself that it takes time. Over time, these concepts start to become very real and you start to go, wow, yeah, I get it. I'm finally getting it. Aha moments and things like that, where it becomes real for you. Um, but it doesn't happen. Maybe it happens for some people immediately, but it doesn't. It never happened to me that way. And I went through many spiritual modalities like non-duality, even Eckhart Tolle, even listening to Eckhart Tolle for hours on end and thinking I would go into some sort of meditative state and experience this peace. But the Course in Miracles has just made it that much more understandable
Yeah, but
that
but I want you to understand, Marina, that because you see, if we understand this to mean all that stuff in your head has to stop, that's not going to happen.
right.
But
Of
but
course not.
it's very important to understand that's not what's being said here. all that is being said here is stop trying to do something with it, and
Right.
you remember what you are.
Right. But it's like the woman in the video. She became very frustrated because she wasn't at a place in her mental capacity where she could do that. I think there's a lot of grace involved in all of this that we're maybe not addressing, that it's not just something that we
Well,
just
continue to have a think about that, Marina, and see what feels right for you. What I'm going to say today is that you need a miracle for this, and the miracle is stop it. Now,
okay.
until you stop trying to fix the problem of yourself and your misery, until you learn how to look at those reflections in your head that you've been mistaken for yourself without judging them, you can't have the miracle. Now, if someone is not ready to do that, so be it, okay? But I can only help someone who is ready to use the tools A Course in Miracles give us. And the tool A Course in Miracles gives us is look at the ego without trying to do something about it. Look at the ego without having an opinion on it, without judging it. And what you are will tell you of itself. That's the miracle. Is there deeper and deeper levels of recognition with that? There are. You have to bring everything to the silence that you are, the non-judgment that you are. But that's the miracle. There is no steps leading up to this other than that you do the workbook. So by all means, do the workbook, okay? But they're all training you to do this. This is the practice. So just for yourself, Marina, just begin to think on that because what you are is already here.
I do understand that. I
Cool.
do. Thank
Cool.
you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks, Marina.
Bye.
Lana, take yourself off mute.
Hello, everybody. Yes, Keith, I believe everything that you've said is true. I believe it from the Course perspective and from the Buddhist perspective. I know it's true. However, I have a question. What is it that appears to reincarnate?
Interesting question. Interesting question. Well, let me tell you that when Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj were asked a question like that, they would tailor the answer to where the disciple was. So sometimes they would talk about this in a context of reincarnation. But whenever they were with disciples that were further along, they would say it like it is. And how it is this: there's nothing happening here, there's just images. Nothing is here being born, nothing is here dying, nothing is here in this incarnation, and nothing's coming back in another incarnation. These are just images. Remember, you are in the theater watching a movie nothing is in. And that's why in A Course in Miracles, in the manual for teachers where it says, is there reincarnation? The answer is no. There's no such thing as incarnation, never mind reincarnation. So that's why the Course says it's very unhelpful to believe in reincarnation if you're like putting things off until the next life. That's kind of useless. So, I mean, what I would say, maybe this is unfair of me to say, as a personal belief, I would say I would never teach anyone about reincarnation. I think for me and for as a course student, I don't find that a helpful belief to have because who is the one that's reincarnating? It's the ego that's not really there. You are the silence that sees this. So I think it's really helpful to do some inquiry on this and go, who is the one that's reincarnating? See if you can find them. All you'll find is the quiet that you are. And the quiet isn't incarnated, never mind reincarnating. So the idea of reincarnation is based on a misperception of what you are, that you are a creature in time, trapped in time, traveling through time. That's the movie. You're in the theater. So you're not in time. The whole movie is made out of you, but you're not a character in the movie. Now, I know that can be scary from an ego identified perspective, but when I look inside and go, who would reincarnate? I can't find anyone. There's no one here to reincarnate. There's no one here in the body now. So everyone you ask that question to will give you a different answer. But even when they do, they're often tailoring the answer to the sensitivities of the disciple and their cultural background and what they believe. But when I remember that there is no separate self here, there is no ego here, there's only the silence, and it sees itself as the truth of everyone, in the same way, I don't think that the belief in a spirit world is very helpful. I'm not saying there may not be pictures of a spirit world like there's pictures of this world, but nobody's there. There is just what sees. The quiet you already are. And that's what everyone is, because there's no everyone. There is God's one holy, innocent Son. There is the light of the world right now, appearing as a world, maybe appearing as a spirit world, but it's the light that's real, not what it's appearing as. That doesn't mean anything. Does that make sense? You're not off mute, Lana. Just need to unmute yourself. Can you unmute? Yeah, there you are.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I know that somewhere in the Course, Jesus says it's perverse. I'm paraphrasing. It's perverse to think that there's something that lives on after death. Do you remember that?
Yes, because nothing is born and nothing is dying. They're just pictures. You are what sees this. You are what looks for what was born and what will die and sees there's nothing there. There is only what's looking. And it is silent, still, spacious awareness. It is the quiet that you are already. All is well.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you for answering my
Thanks,
question. I
Lana.
appreciate it.
Amanda do Brasil. Vai em frente.
Hey, Chief. It's really nice to be here. Um, so I have like this, let's say, problem with making decisions because, you've explained many times that when we sit in this not knowing, in this silence and stillness, there will be a knowing, a feeling, let's say, of what is most helpful to do in that moment, right? But what about if you need to make a decision and you have all that ego raging and, it's impossible to be still or in silence and you still need to make a decision and you don't know what to do and or it doesn't even matter what decision I will make anyway because like you said nothing is really happening and the script is written, so I don't know, I get very caught up in what is most helpful to do in each moment, even like when people come talking with me and they are like telling the same stories over and over again. And I'm like, do I just listen? Do I just say something? What's most helpful here?
Just
You know
stop
what
it.
I mean?
Just stop it. I'm joking, kind of.
Yeah,
Look at first of all, we're not saying all those things pretending to be thoughts in your mind have to stop. We're not saying that. Okay.
yeah, sure.
Stillness, it is enough that you're not having thoughts about the thoughts. Now you're the stillness in the midst of the noise. Okay. But if you're having thoughts about the thoughts, and thoughts about the thoughts and about the thoughts and the thought, or if you're thinking you're having thoughts about the thoughts about the thoughts, because you're not thinking, right? But if you're embroiled in that, then look, just do the best you can. All right. Um, but A Course in Miracles is very different, right? So A Course in Miracles, this guidance that's available to us, that's not available to you until you stop having thoughts about thoughts about thoughts about thoughts. Okay, so that's what you need to practice, right? So guidance isn't something people can step into straight away when I still think I'm thinking. When I still think this mess in my head pretending to be thoughts, when I still think I'm doing this and that this makes a powerful contribution to the truth. No, it doesn't. It's nothing. Okay? So what you need to do is you need to practice forgiveness. And forgiveness is that you look at what these thoughts are doing and you look at the feelings that are coming up connected with it, and you don't have thoughts and feelings about it. You forgive yourself for not being at peace. Now there's a peace here with the non-peace. You have stopped it. You're not fighting the non-peace. You're not saying, oh, this is terrible and I need to fix it. No, that's judgment. That's not forgiveness. Stop. Stop doing anything. And just witness and be with what's happening without making up stories about it. To feel what you are as the quiet. That's what you work on. It's only when you start to feel at home in the quiet, okay, that you can come back here anytime. And now, okay, because we're talking about the quiet, we're talking about the stillness that is the Holy Spirit. There is an intelligence here. There is a knowing here. Okay? So in this emptiness is a knowing. Now, so this is a completely different operating system. If you're ego identified, you're mixing yourself with the reflections in your mind going, oh my God, this could wreck my life and I need to choose something so I could be happy and this thing could make me unhappy. Well, that just means you don't know what you are. Okay. And everything you do is going to be polluted with fear and separateness and hatred. Okay. And none of it's going to work because it's all seeking to find happiness through your decisions and seeking to avoid unhappiness through your decisions. But it's not going to work. Okay. Because you're mixed up in the ego thought system and there's no happiness there. It's seek and do not find forever. So instead, you're learning to stop. You're learning to be still. So stillness tells you of yourself. Forgiveness is the way you do that. Now, when this stillness becomes established as what you are, you discover the knowing that's here. And now there's no more thinking about it and what am I going to do and what's the right thing to do and should I do it and maybe I shouldn't. And that's gone. Now there is just a spontaneous knowing of what the obvious thing to do is in the moment. So it's very easy to know the difference between wrong-minded decision and right-minded decision. It's the simplest thing in the world. A wrong-minded decision is born of the fact that there appears to be a problem and I need to do something to fix this problem and to have peace. So once that's happening, that's a wrong-minded decision. That's all that is, okay? Now, it's so simple then to know what a right-minded decision is. Peace is already here. And the decision is an extension of that peace. Peace is here in the nothing. Peace is here in the quiet, in the stillness, in that which is aware of the big cloud of things pretending to be thoughts, but not having any opinion on them, not having any judgment of them. The stillness that you are. Peace is already here. So now there's no investment in what has to happen in the world. Peace is already here now. And from this peace, something to be decided just happens through you. It just happens. It's just a spontaneous deciding that happens in the moment. But I don't need it so I can be peaceful. I don't need it to get away from my fear. I don't need it so I can somehow save myself. The salvation is here now in the peace. It doesn't matter what happens in the world. So once you realize it's not so much that it doesn't matter what happens, it's that your peace doesn't depend on what happens. Nothing can take the peace of the quiet from you, and nothing is required that you have the peace you already are. That's here now. Now you're right-minded. Now the knowingness that is the Holy Spirit, that is the thinking of all the universe, not private thoughts. No, no, no. This is the same thing all apparently separate minds would hear. This is how the Holy Spirit's script goes. But that's born of peace. It is not an attempt to create peace. The attempt to create peace is born of the lie that peace is not already here. And that just means you've mixed yourself up with that big cloud of nonsense that pretends to be your thoughts. So the first thing you have to do is you have to separate yourself out from that. And you can only do that by not having an opinion on it, by not judging it, by not calling it awful, by not sitting in the middle of it without judging it, as Emoda Ma says. Being peaceful with the non-peace being there, as Eckhart Tolle says. Forgiveness that is still and quietly does nothing. It looks and waits and judges not. And in that looking and waiting, I remember what I am, the peace that's already here, that needs nothing. And from here, from the knowingness that's here in spirit, the one spirit we all are in the Holy Spirit, the knowing that's here, that happens through you without you having any investment in it. So not everyone's ready to jump into that kind of guidance aspect of things. I think that's one of the biggest pitfalls for Course in Miracles students is that everyone wants to hear the big booming voice, but nobody wants to undo their ego. Nobody wants to do forgiveness. Everyone's like, where's that voice? Where's the voice of God in my mind so I can feel like a special ego, more special than everyone else. And I need to tell everyone, oh, Jesus told me personally. It was all fabulous. Okay. No, that's nonsense. Who's Jesus talking to? There's no one there. There's no one there. Come home to the quiet and the knowingness that's here. And that just takes care of itself in the moment when there's no investment in it. But no, as soon as we're trying to make a decision which says, oh, which will make me happier, that's just, you think you're an ego, right? So there's no guidance available there. So not everyone's ready for this in the beginning. You know, in the beginning of the course, Jesus says miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. What's the purification? That big mess in your head, that's not you. It doesn't matter if it's there. All you have to do is know it's not you. You're the quiet, aware of the noise, but not the noise. This is purely an identity thing. Once you realize, my God, there is no separate self here. It was just made out of thoughts. And the thought that there was a self here thinking them, there's nobody here. Something is here, but it's the same thing that's everywhere. It is a pure present moment awareness. It's presence. So what I would say is, before jumping the gun and going, oh, what's the Holy Spirit tell me? And what's the best thing for me to do as an ego? You have to work on this purification. As Jesus says in lesson 70, you've got to go through the thoughts to get to the light that you are outside them. So you've got to, by forgiving the clouds that you think are something to do with you and they're not, by forgiving them, by doing nothing with them, by stopping, not the clouds, you You stop, and you stop projecting a meaning onto it. You allow it to be what you surrender to everything that the reflections are doing, everything the body is doing, everything the world is doing, you surrender to the whole thing. Stop. And what you are will tell you of itself and will know itself without thought as the truth of everything and everyone. So does that make sense, Amanda?
Oh, yes, it's extremely helpful. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks a million for the question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Linda, we have a little bit of time maybe before we finish, maybe 8 minutes. Is there anything to address in the chat box?
Well, there's only one question,
Oh,
so
wow. Oh, it's going to finish
we're
up perfectly.
good.
I'll be in time for my dinner.
Okay, it's from Lael.
Cool.
Is there any difference in how we sit without judging thoughts, or how we sit without judging feelings?
No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing because what you are, and this is like what I was saying to Marina, what you are isn't capable of judging. That's just those reflections going on in your mind that you think are you. And because you think you're thinking them, you think you have judgments, but you don't. You can't judge. All right. Because you already are the light of the world. You already are the Holy Son of God, the one Holy Son of God, appearing as a world, the dreamer appearing as their dream, but completely unchanged by it, unqualified by it. And so what all you want to do, and the Course in Miracles is such a direct path. It's saying go straight to the truth of what you are. How do I do that? Look on thoughts and feelings and don't have thoughts and feelings about them. See, because we all have suffering, because when you mix yourself up and you think you're a separate self, the suffering begins. And next thing, oh, I'm suffering so badly. And then we start suffering about it, going, this means I'm a bad course student and this shouldn't be happening to me. And I'm having suffering about the suffering, and I'm going to have more suffering about the suffering, about the suffering. And the reflections just keep going. And I've got to get out of that. And it's very simple. You look at the ego without having an opinion of it. This is, oh my God, try to listen, everyone, to this. Everyone goes straight to judgment and goes, oh, this is bad. This is guilty. What do I do to fix it? Now I'm going to choose a miracle. No, you've lost. You've gone off the track straight away. You made a judgment. You said the feelings are bad. You said they shouldn't be here. You said I can't be putting up with them. That's not forgiveness. That's judgment. You're straight into the flypaper. Stop it. Stop it. Surrender. Drop everything so you can remember what you are. There's the corny old joke. If I'm ever stuck on a life support machine, plug me out and then plug me in and see if that works. Okay, so if you ever ring up a technical department for electrical products and you go, oh my God, I have this problem with the microwave and it won't do anything, or I have this problem with the computer, they'll always go, plug it out, wait a minute, plug it back in again, see if that works. Okay, literally, we are talking about the exact same thing here. Because what you are is you're in here in this mess in your head that pretends to be thoughts that are not really your thoughts and that don't really exist and they don't mean anything because there's no such thing as a separate self and you're not a separate self and you already are the light of the world. You're in this mess. Okay, now plug yourself out. Okay, so stop. You think there's okay. The Course in Miracles says you have no problems, but you think you do. Literally, the only problem you can have is to think there's a problem. That's the only problem there can be, is the thought that there's a problem, because there's no problem. So because you think there's a problem, so now you have a problem, okay? Now what you're doing is you're going, oh, the problem is terrible and I need to fix it and I need to do something about it. Now, what I'm saying is, oh my God, plug yourself out. Stop it. Stop all that. Stop it. Is completeness and wholeness not already here if you stop it? All of that. You absolutely certain the silence that you are isn't already here, and seeing itself as the truth of everyone. Stop it. Let's take that beautiful quote from earlier. There is a silence into which the world cannot intrude. There is an ancient peace you carry in your heart and have not lost. There is a sense of holiness in you that the thought of sin has never touched. If you just stop trying to do something about thoughts and emotions, is that not already here? Stop it. Stop all of that. Is that not already here? No matter what emotions are doing, no matter what thoughts are doing, things that pretend to be thoughts, no matter what they're doing, is that peace not already here? Just stop it. There's no problem. There's a movie playing with bodies and thoughts and feelings and stories. You're not in the movie. So stop fighting everything. Stop trying to fix anything. Oh my God, A Course in Miracles says all that's needed is a little willingness. And everyone thinks, oh, I just do a little bit and, that's enough because, the power of heaven. Okay, and that's true, but that's not everything A Course in Miracles is saying. A Course in Miracles is saying, for the love of God, just a little willingness. Don't, for the love of God, try to do too much. There's nothing to be done. There's nothing to be done except to stop trying to do something and realize salvation's already here. Just stop shouting there's problems. It doesn't matter what thoughts and feelings are doing. That's not a problem. The only problem is you saying there's a problem here. Now you don't know what you are. You stop having a problem with anything. You just forgive it. Just stop. It's fine. Just stop. And what you are will tell you of itself. And in the beginning, it'll whisper. It will whisper. But it gets louder. The sound of the silence gets louder. And once you realize you are the silence, I can't say anything about that. There's not, anything I say about that is a lie. Once you realize I was the silence all along, there's nothing here except silence. It's appearing as thoughts and feelings and stories that mean nothing, but my God, it's all the silence I am. And I look out into the world and that's all the silence that I am. And there's nothing here that's not everywhere. And there's nothing everywhere that's not here. And the separation from God never happened. But you're not going to jump there straight away. But my God, you can learn I'm never upset for the reason I think. It doesn't matter what's happening in your life. That's not why you're upset. You're upset because you think that big pile of nonsense in your head that pretends to be thoughts is you. Now, stop doing anything with it. Just stop. Just allow it to be what it is. Surrender to it all. This is the massive irony of A Course in Miracles and spiritual truth, no matter where you see it. Total surrender unveils the power of heaven in your mind. And afterwards, it's so obvious. It's like, my God, of course. I mean, what else, right? But that's so counterintuitive when you still think you're thinking. That the greatest power in the universe is found through complete and total surrender. Because all the seeking and resisting is ego. When that stops, the light of the world is here. And all is well. So actually, Cindy has had her hand up. I don't know how I missed Cindy there when I was. So Cindy, you will be our, what's the word I'm looking for? Finale of the evening. So you take
Oh,
yourself up. You can go ahead.
oh, thanks, Keith. You didn't miss me. I put my hand down again. I'm actually making
Okay, fair enough.
pots in the studio while I'm listening to you. And I just wanted to share an experience. Like as a beginner, a very beginner, last Sunday was my first Zoom with you guys and listening to you, Keith. And so as a beginner, and then seeing that comedy sketch with the just stop it, I just want to say from my experience, it was perfect to help me because I was killing myself laughing, identifying with her.
Yeah.
And then as you were sharing the lessons, so I guess what I'm trying to say is I was drawn to A Course in Miracles, and I watched your first shared in your last my first Zoom last Sunday,
Mhm.
and I was curious enough. I don't understand it all, but I'm curious enough to say this feels like truth to me. I want to learn more. So then I went and I bought the workbook. I'm only at chapter 1, so a lot of it doesn't make sense to me yet. But I'm so eager to learn the teachings, and everything you say just helps me so much. Like just every time you say just stop it, I start laughing now, and it's a little reminder for me to take that moment and be mindful and remind myself, right, okay. And so that's all. I don't have a question. I just really wanted to share how very
Oh,
helpful that
beautiful,
was
Cindy.
for me.
We do. I have actually got commentaries for all the workbook lessons. You can find it in the community section of the YouTube channel. So if you go to the
Okay.
community tab, there's a commentary in all the lessons, which might help you as you go through them.
What?
Or they're in the Facebook group as well. What I think it's important to bear in mind is that there's nothing to get. That's
I think I'm getting that.
the amazing thing about this. Now, let me say, right, I was someone who had to have every single question answered, every T crossed. Like I've always been the worst student in the world because it doesn't matter what I'm doing. Like I wrecked my husband's head trying to learn Portuguese because I'll come up against something and I'll go, I need the answer to this now. Okay. I can't go any further. Now, a good student will go, I don't really understand this, but I'm just going to keep going. And at some point, I'm going to understand this, and that's all fine. But I'm a terrible student, and I will have a tantrum, and I will go, I'm not going any further until I understand this. The world does not make any sense to me. I need this fixed. I need to understand this. And I did. Oh my God, I needed to understand what every single line of A Course in Miracles meant. Every single line. I needed that. Okay. Um, and anyone who needs that, you indulge that mind, okay? But please bear this in mind, right? All you're doing is you are trying to tranquilize the mind. That's all this is. All right. So all questions asked within the world are a form of propaganda for itself. It says, I think I'm a separate self. And I need to know why blah, 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 blah. And the answer is no, you're silence. And so is everything. There's no questions here. If there's questions, you don't know what you are, because there's no questions in the silence all as well. Okay. Now, but I'm not saying don't ask questions, and I'm not saying don't understand things, right? I'm saying all of this is to get your mind to shut the hell up. And in the silence, you go, oh my God, I was this all along. I didn't need any of the questions answered. I just had to have my mind shut the hell up. And not even that there's no more thoughts going on. I just had to realize, yeah, but that's not me. Oh my
I
God.
think what I'm understanding too is like, so just as a very new beginner to just
Yeah.
have a little trust.
Yeah.
And then as I realize that trust isn't even necessary.
No.
And it, remi- it reminds me of
Absolutely.
a saying that I used to have on my office wall. So take the first step. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take that
Yeah.
first step in faith, right? Kind of like that.
Yeah. I think the big trust, and that's what I would love. If you got nothing else out of our time together today, I would love you to remember this. The real trust is to trust A Course in Miracles and to trust me and many other people when they say to you, the voice in your head isn't you. The thoughts you think you're thinking are not actually thoughts. You're not thinking them, and they don't mean anything. You're silent. That doesn't mean you're not going to lose yourself in them. I still do, but the pain is excruciating almost immediately. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. Go back to the silence where there's no one. At least I know that sounds triggering for the ego when I say there's no one here, right? I mean, what I mean is there's no self here apart from all that is. And maybe that's less triggering. It's maybe more accurate because something is here. It's the light of the world, but it's not a separate self and it's not a thinker. But there's a knowing here. There's a knowing that from which there is a spontaneous response to the moment that takes care of itself. But peace is already here. So A Course in Miracles, listen, this is just about finding the quiet that you are. And that quiet reveals itself as the truth of everyone, like Helen's poem. Or like let's have it one more time because it's such a beautiful quote from the Course. The
So
miracle.
thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
pleasure. Thanks for your question. So here's our swan song. The miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. That doesn't mean the big pile of nonsense in your head has to stop. You just have to stop judging it. You have to become quiet about the noise in your head and the emotions that it's generating. Just become quiet about that. That's enough. It's enough to be the silence aware of the noise, knowing I'm not the noise, I'm the silence that hears it. So the miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still. It reaches gently from that quiet time, and from the mind it heals in quiet then to other minds to share its quietness. I am a son of God who walks in stillness. The quiet goes out from my fingertips to cover all living things in holiness. So find the quiet, not by trying to silence the reflections in your head. No, stop it. By forgiving them, by doing nothing about them. You stop in the middle of all that activity. You stop. And the quiet will tell you of yourself and what you are. Because you were never that. Guys, thanks a million for your attention today. I hope you got something useful out of it. We will catch up in the group during the week and we will do it all again next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Keith.
Thanks,
Thank
Keith.
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.